The Hawker Hurricane was a single-seat fighter aircraft that saw service with the Royal Air Force during the 1930s and 1940s. Hawker Aircraft Ltd. was responsible for the design and construction of the majority of these aircraft. During the Battle of Britain in 1940, it was overshadowed in the public consciousness by the Supermarine Spitfire. However, the Hurricane was responsible for 60% of the losses sustained by the Luftwaffe in the campaign, and it fought in all of the major theaters of the Second World War. In the early 1930s, officials from the Royal Air Force and aircraft designer Sir Sidney Cam discussed the possibility of developing a monoplane version of the biplane known as the Hawker Fury. These discussions were the genesis of the Hurricane. In spite of an institutional preference for biplanes and a lack of interest by the Air Ministry, Hawker refined their monoplane proposal and incorporated several innovations that became essential to wartime fighter aircraft. These innovations included retractable landing gear and the more powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. In the latter part of 1934, the Air Ministry placed an order for Hawker's Interceptor monoplane, and on November 6, 1935, the prototype Hurricane K5083 took to the skies for the first time. The work on the airframe was finished at Hawker's facility in Kingston upon Thames by the end of August 1935. The aircraft components were then transported to Brooklands, Surrey, where Hawker had an assembly shed. The prototype was fully reassembled on October 23, 1935. Testing on the ground and in taxis took place over the course of the subsequent 2 weeks. Flight Lieutenant George Bullman, Hawker's chief test pilot, gave the prototype K5083 its maiden flight on November 6, 1935. Bullman was in control of the aircraft during this initial flight. During the subsequent flight testing, Bullman was assisted by 2 other pilots. Philip Lucas flew some of the experimental test flights, and John Hindmarsh oversaw the company's production flight trials. Prior to the acceptance of the final multi-gun wing armament, the prototype had been outfitted with ballast to represent the aircraft's armament. This was done before the prototype was considered complete. The Air Ministry began manufacturing the Hurricane shortly after. In June of 1936, he began his service with the squadron in December of 1937. Because the manufacturing and maintenance of it were simplified by the use of conventional construction methods, squadrons were able to perform a significant number of major repairs without the assistance of outside sources. The aircraft was quickly acquired prior to the beginning of the Second World War. By September 1939, the Royal Air Force had 18 squadrons in service that were equipped with Hurricanes. It was used to defend against German aircraft that were operated by the Luftwaffe, including engaging in dogfights with Messerschmitt Bf 109 in a number of different theaters of operation. The Hurricane went through a number of iterations during its development, including those as a bomber interceptor, fighter bomber, ground support aircraft, and fighter. Modifications were made to those versions of the Sea Hurricane that were designed for the Royal Navy so that they could be operated from ships. A number of them were modified to serve as catapult launch convoy escorts. When production came to an end in July 1944, a total of 14,487 units had been finished in Britain and Canada, with the remaining units being constructed in Belgium and Yugoslavia. The aircraft had a maximum airspeed of 509 kilometers per hour and a cruise speed of 341 kilometers per hour with a range of 585 miles. At the time of the plane's debut, that maximum speed figure was 160 kilometers per hour faster than any other aircraft that was currently in existence. The length was 31 feet 5 inches. The wingspan was 40 feet 0 inches, and a total of 8 Browning were mounted on those wings. 303 Mark E machine guns, each of which has a capacity for 334 rounds of ammunition. When Nazi Germany invaded Poland in September of 1939, which ultimately led to the beginning of the Second World War, the Hurricane was one of the first British warplanes that were called into active service. Hurricane pilots drew first blood for the RAF during air battles fought over France. It is stated on the official website of the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum. On October 30, 1939, a German Dornier Do-17 twin-engine bomber was shot down by Pilot Officer P.W.O. Mold of No. 1 Squadron, Royal Air Force. Mold accomplished this feat while piloting a Hurricane. When the German Wehrmacht and Luftwaffe launched their blitzkrieg against France in 1940, Hurricane pilots put up a valiant and punishing rearguard action, but it was ultimately ineffective. As a result, more than a quarter of the RAF Fighter Command's aircraft were shot down. The role that the Hawker fighter played in World War II, that was the most significant, however, did not come until a few months later, during the Battle of Britain. We have mentioned this before. To quote the WWII website once more, during the period of the Battle of Britain, a total of 1,715 Hawker Hurricanes flew with Fighter Command, which was far in excess of all other British fighters combined. It is estimated that Hawker Hurricane pilots were responsible for 4/5 of all enemy aircraft that were shot down during that crucial time period of July to October 1940. In general, the defensive duties were split between the Hurricanes and the Spitfires, with the former going after the German bombers and the latter engaging in dogfights with the enemy fighters. The Hurricanes were tasked with bringing down the German bombers. The Hawker Warbird was responsible for producing a significant number of aces, including Flying Officer Edgar James Kane. In addition, Squadron Leader Marmaduke Pat Paddle, who was considered by some to be the RAF pilot with the highest number of victories during the war, scored 35 of his 44 officially confirmed kills in the Hurricane. However, the total number of victories could actually be as high as 50. There were a total of 14,583 Hurricanes manufactured. At this time, there are at least a dozen survivors still in existence, and they are dispersed across the globe in countries such as Australia, the Czech Republic, Canada, France, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The Military Aviation Museum in Virginia Beach, which is located in Virginia, is home to the sole Hurricane in the United States that is still in flying condition. This information is to the best of my knowledge. But if you don't mind shelling out a few extra dollars, or quid, to use the British slang for their pound sterling currency, you can take a ride in the world's only two-seater version of the aircraft, which is a courtesy of Hurricane Heritage at White Waltham Airfield in Berkshire, England. The aircraft is located in the United Kingdom. The cheapest tickets for a flight that lasts for half an hour cost a paltry £2,875, which is equivalent to $3,404.17 in current U.S. currency. That's it for today, guys. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to get the latest update about the fresh and interesting content we keep on posting. See you in the next video.